everyone. Welcome to the fifth in our series of COVID-19 town hall meetings. My name is Phil Weiler. Again, I'm going to serve as our moderator for this hour. I have the opportunity to serve as Vice President for Marketing and Communications here at Washington State. And right off the bat, I want to welcome everybody who's joining us. These meetings have consistently had thousands of people join, and they're connecting from all of our campuses around the state, all of our extension offices, our research facilities, all over the country. And in at least one case, we received a question today from a person who's planning to attend future events. So great to have so many folks joining us. We're going to follow a very similar process that we've done in the past. I'm joined today by four members of our panel. I'll introduce them in a second. And then also we have a cadre of folks who are helping out with live questions and live chat. As I said, I'm joined today by Kirk Schultz, President of Washington State University, Brian Slinker, our Interim Provost and Executive Vice President, Teresa Elliott Chesnick, Vice President of Human Resource Services, and finally Stacy Peterson, our Vice President of Finance and Administration. As we've done in the past, we collected questions prior to this online. As of this morning, we have 18 pages of questions. So lots of interest this time around. We'll get to as many of those questions as we can. As I mentioned, though, if a question comes to mind for you while we're talking, please feel free to use the live chat feature. I'm looking at that right now and already seeing folks who are connecting via that live chat. We will again have subject matter experts who are monitoring those questions, and if at all possible, either answering the questions live or pointing folks to resources where they can get more information. So with that, let's get started. As I said, we have a lot of interest and a lot of questions. And I guess the first thing I'd like to do is ask President Schultz to talk to us a little bit about what the plans are in the fall. As I looked at the questions, there are a lot of people who are still not sure what we're thinking about doing in the fall. And so this will be a good opportunity for us to kind of lay the groundwork for where we think we're going and what we think the fall is going to look like.
Phil, thank you, and good morning, Cougs. Thanks everybody for joining us. Before I start talking about our fall 2020 plans, WSU, we have a history of working hard to develop an inclusive and diverse environment throughout the WSU system in all our campuses, extension centers, student groups, faculty and staff, and alumni. Our communities of color this morning are hurting across the nation as we watch reaction to several deaths that have occurred recently by African Americans. We want to continue to make sure that we're setting a standard in the state of Washington for how we work with diversity, equity, and inclusion. And we're pledged to work with our police in our local areas to make sure that we are not just showing sympathy for that pain right now in our communities of color, but we're setting an example. And so this morning, for those of you watching, for our faculty, staff, students, alumni, anybody associated with WSU and our communities of color, our heart goes out to you, and we're pledging to continue to do the best we can to improve, to do things differently, and to make a difference moving forward. So Phil, as we talk about restarting for fall 2020, we got lots of questions about what that's going to look like. And what I want to do is go through a few items that some will be repetitive, but some may be a little bit different as we continue to work in this particular area. First, and I always want to emphasize this, safety of our faculty, staff, and students is a paramount concern. When we start talking about logistical things, that is a part of our conversations all the time, and will continue to be so. We receive lots of questions. We still get questions. What are the plans for fall 2020? And I just want to reiterate, our plans are for in-person experiences at all of our campus locations for fall 2020. As I've said before, and we'll continue to repeat, the experience for fall 2020 is going to look different at all of our campus locations in fall of 2019. But we're committed to it, we're working on it, and we'll continue to keep everybody informed as our planning moves forward. We work hard to make sure that we're communicating across the higher education sector steps, though, before worrying about students coming onto campus is how do we safely bring our employees back to our different campus locations. This has to be generally done in conjunction with the Department of Health in different areas. Teresa Elliott Cheslick, our Vice President for Human Resources, and her team have put together a very comprehensive plan that we're going to start sharing next week on how to safely bring people back to campuses, how to maintain social distances in the workplace, where people can report issues or challenges or things where they don't feel safe or there's concerns that we need to be aware of. So we will pledge to put that out and make sure that people have a clear written set of guidelines on what it needs to look like when people return to work if they choose to do so. We're also committed to reopening our research enterprise. And just last week, there was a town hall on research and scholarly activity at WSU. And what that restart also needs to look like, that draft plan is out there available for people to look at now. And that's an important part of us also re-engaging and continuing to expand our in-person operations prior to the fall semester. We're doing all this in conjunction with Governor Inslee and guidance that's given from the state. And we want to make sure, I always want to let folks know that we're not doing this independently, we're not doing this on our own, we're doing it in conjunction with public healthcare professionals and so forth. We also are working to develop our in-house COVID-19 testing capabilities in Pullman that will work for the entire WSU system through the College of Veterinary Medicine. We've mentioned that before. We're continuing to ramp that up, and it's going to be important for our fall in-person experiences to be able to do rapid testing in a format that's close by that we can get those results quickly, and that's continuing to move forward. We'll also need to have contact tracing as part of our testing protocols. Contact tracing will be done with phone app. And if you say, well, that's great, for what phone app are we going to use? We don't know. Right now, there's 5 or 6 different ones out there. We're going to evaluate those, and we'll let the community know well in advance what that needs to look like. But there's going to be a lot of developments that occur over the next 4 to 6 weeks. But that contact tracing will also be an integral part of our in-person plans for the fall. We will have a social distancing policy in place for all campus locations, and that applies not just to residence halls and classrooms, but gathering spaces and other types of things. We'll have a cleaning protocol in place. That is, whether it's a classroom or we have an event somewhere, what that looks like. And for many of you who are out there, and our county here, Whitman County and Pullman is in phase 2, those cleaning protocols are in place for restaurants and other types of things. We'll have to make sure we design the ability to do that into our schedules. We will work on what our residence hall population looks like in terms of number of people per room and things like that. I know people want to know that. It'll be the middle of June before we make final decisions on what those look like, and we'll make sure we communicate those. We will also be working closely with our colleagues in the Pullman community, in the Vancouver community, the Tri-Cities community, as we come back. It's not just what are we doing on our campuses, it's what are we doing in the area where our students, our faculty and staff are coming from. And I want people to feel some confidence that we can have everything done on our campus location, but if we don't work with our partners and colleagues surrounding our campuses, it's going to be really hard to have that environment that we think is so careful. And then finally, out there are lots of changes proposed at different institutions to the academic calendar to minimize travel and things like that. As much as I wish I could just snap my fingers and make it happen, these things require careful consideration. It requires looking and talking with our faculty leadership. It involves our accreditation, class days, and things like that. And I will just say that we are engaging in those conversations to look like what we could do with our academic calendar this next year to, again, just put us in a position to be safe and successful with the fall 2020 semester. Finally, we'll put a publication, a letter out to the general WSU community next week that has more of these details in there. I will say, and I know we'll have some questions, that people want to know details. They want to know exactly what we're going to do and how. And we want to make sure that we're just careful with our communication, that we don't contradict ourselves, that we don't put out one thing and then put out something else the next week. So I realize people want to know more. They want to know it quickly. And we're going to continue to pledge to put out high quality, carefully thought out planning documents and communications through video, social media, these kind of things, all through the summer, to make sure by the time fall gets here, people say they've done it well, they've communicated well, and we feel good about the environment that we're going to teach in, that we're going to work in, that we're going to learn in, that we're going to live in. So lots there. That's more than I probably wanted to talk at one time, but lots of activities going on. Our planning is going well. We're going to be ready for an exceptional fall 2020 in-person experience at all of our campuses.
Great. Thank you, Kirk. That's helpful. Brian, I'm going to address this question to you because President Schultz made a reference to it. There has been a lot of work that's been done lately on how we do sort of a slow phased reintroduction to research. I know that that's a big concern to investigators, researchers across the system. There was work, as President Schultz mentioned, on guidelines that are in draft form. My understanding is we've got sort of one big last hurdle to get over before we can share those. Can you give us an update on where are those research guidelines, and if people are interested in learning more, where they should go?
Thanks, Phil, and thanks everyone for who's tuning into this. And I'll acknowledge right off the bat that I wore the wrong shirt today for a video conference. So if you're seeing my stripes, I apologize for that. So for research, this planning has been led out of the Office of Research under Vice President Keene, who charged a task force led by Levi O'Loughlin in that office. There's been a lot of feedback on that, lots of iterations of the draft, culminating with a final, what we consider our final draft now is done. And the reason I call it final draft, even though that seems kind of odd, is that we recognize that no matter where we think we are done, conditions will change dynamically that may change our guidance. So the document is created as a dynamic document with change control, so we know which version we're working on, but the first version of that is ready to go. That doesn't mean we're ready to start turning people loose in the labs yet, because as Kirk mentioned, we still have to coordinate with county and state public health authorities and state government for these plans, so that these plans are vetted and approved as consistent with government guidelines and public health guidelines. And that process is ongoing in multiple communication channels with both county and state government. Once we feel like we have the go-ahead, then we're ready to go. So draft one is done. It's the guidance we're going to start with, but we will start as soon as we get the go-ahead from public health authorities. And starting means there will be an initial period of about a week where we have a very structured, staged reintroduction where plans are approved and posted. A lot of this is outlined in the previous discussions in town hall, and it's all available on the Office of Research website if you want to refer to it. So we're ready to go from our perspective. As soon as we get approval, there will be a few days of structured getting ready to go, and then we'll begin as soon as possible.
Great, thank you. I have to say, from my perspective, I thought that team did a really good job of thinking through all the issues that need to be addressed before we can begin to start repopulating those labs. So again, I'll say if you're interested and have not had a chance to see the current draft, the Office of Research website has links to it, and I think it's a good document. I'm going to use that as a segue to ask a question of Teresa, if I could. I know that in addition to the guidelines we've been preparing for research, you and your team have been preparing guidelines for what a safe and phased reintroduction to the workplace workplace looks like. And I know that that work isn't done, but I'm wondering, could you give us a preview of what those guidelines might look like, and just provide any other information? I think I will say that as I looked again at the questions, a lot of folks are anxious, thinking that they're going to be having to return to the workplace before they may be ready based on their own personal situation. So could you share the guidelines and then maybe hit some highlights for us?
Yeah, great. Thank you, Phil. Yeah, HRS is working in collaboration with our subject matter experts in environmental health and safety, risk management, on developing a general guide for a safe return to work. A guide that will just kind of won't cover everybody's special needs in labs and some of the other high volume areas where there's some sensitivity, but for the general population, we're working on a guide that will address the primary issues such as, number one, employees who can work from home and telework will continue to do so through phases 2 and 3. And I know that's a common question we're getting on the chat, and I want to assure everyone that's going to be one of the primary concerns when an area is deciding who to bring back to a workplace. The first question is going to be, can they perform that work at home? And then that answers that question. They shouldn't be being brought back to work. But we're establishing guides regarding social distancing, hygiene, those important considerations to ensure the workplace is safe, and in accordance with the local health officials and the phase that's in place for the county. So it'll be a general guide, but in addition to that, the area supervisors, managers, decision makers are going to have to be considering what phase the county is, any other directives from the local health officials. Those are going to be the priorities as we move to slowly phase employees back into WSU work locations.
Great, thank you. So what I heard you say, I'll just reiterate, if work can be done from home at this stage, it should be done from home. Is that right?
Yes.
Good.
All right.
Do you have a sense of the timing of when we might be able to release those guidelines?
As President Schultz said, we hope to have the guidelines out sometime next week. The guidelines will include mandatory training that all of WSU employees will take, very short safety training that we're working with environmental health and safety on, 5 or 10 minutes for our online system, quick training video, and there are some other conference requirements we're working on that employees will need to take into required. So hopefully the guide is ready next week. And I'll add that we're planning a general guide for other areas that have situations that can
I'm going to ask this question of you, or Brian or Stacy, but anyone else. There's been a lot of questions and concerns about what our budget situation is going to look like next year. Can you address that, and then maybe if we have specific questions we can discuss?
I'm concerned like everybody else what that's going to look like next year. And just to provide some background, we were asked by the state of Washington to start doing scenario planning for a particular cut. They asked for a 15% cut, and by the time you translate that to our budgets in WSU, that constitutes a 10% reduction. Now, this is an exercise. The state has not mandated that we have to give back a certain amount of money at this particular point, so it's a scenario planning exercise. We announced this to the campus community in a broad communication, and now we have a process that we're going to go through. So we gave everybody about a week to 10 days to put together their proposals of how that would be handled. We asked chancellors, vice presidents, and deans to all put together what that scenario would look like for their particular units. Those are being submitted to Stacy Person. She will talk a little bit about this in a minute. And there's a similar format that we're asking people to do, so we're getting same data and information. Then what we're going to do is we're going to have a meeting where we're asking everybody to actually verbally present that to other leaders across campus to talk about why they might choose to do what we do faculty, staff, students in the state of Washington. There's not that much fluff out there. And so when people talk about what the impact could be on their particular units, it's going to be dramatic, and it's going to affect people. It's going to affect what we can do with students. It's going to affect how we operate in the state. So that we understand, and we're asking people to help us with that. After we do those presentations, what we want to do is take the best ideas, put several scenarios together, and then share that with the cabinet to come up with a proposal, basically, that would be made to me as president. At that particular point, we'll look at it, put together what we think we need to do, should do, and then at that point have visits with faculty senate leadership, with APAC leadership, with student leadership, and a broad-based communication to the campus community. That's where that will probably take us to mid-July. And so if folks are concerned and think something's going to happen next week, or that we've got this all done and we know what that's going to look like, we're going through a very appropriate process to make sure we evaluate what's important, how we use the criteria and the principles that were put out to the campus community, and then make some decisions at that particular point. Once we get additional guidance from the state on what our target really needs to be, I want to continue to emphasize to the entire community that this is an exercise at this point. We know we're going to see some reduced revenues, but we don't know how much that's going to be. And we don't know what impact, for example, additional federal dollars could have on what that fiscal situation looks like. So I understand impatience and people want to know details. When we have details, we will provide them. But at this particular point, we are providing a campus community everything that we know and the time that we know it, and we'll keep that communication line open through social media, through these, and through campus communications periodically during the summer. And that's going to be an important step. I would always ask rehearse are probably the worst sort of thing around these budget times. And as I've mentioned before, please talk to your supervisors, your deans, vice presidents, whatever. When you hear budget rumors or you hear something's going to happen, let us know when you hear those things so we can determine, let you know, is that accurate? Is that occurring? Is that true? And keeping that rumor mill to a minimum is going to be really critical for us. That means the president, the provost, vice president of finance administration, deans, and other academic leaders have to be communicating on a regular basis with people on their campus locations as to what they're thinking, what they're planning, what timelines are. We're committed to that.
Great. If I could piggyback on that, President Stacy mentioned the idea that there was a 10% exercise that we're doing. I've also heard that other state agencies are having to do a 15% exercise to figure out what a reduction would look like for them. Can you clarify for me what the difference is between what Washington State University needs to do and why that might be different than other state agencies?
Sure. As we get our budget and we work with the state, there's also the inclusion of tuition into what is our referred to as PBL, our permanent budget line. And that's how we came up with, based on our operating budget, utilizing PBL, something that speaks to all of the areas up on our campus, is that would translate into about a 10% scenario. And so each area, so all of the campuses, chancellors, the deans, and the vice presidents have been given that target as it relates to what their current operating budget is. And that enables them then to identify what scenarios that they would utilize to make this reduction. So in general, universities are different than other state agencies because of the tuition revenues.
Okay, well, great, thank you. So what I heard you say is, unlike some state agencies that only get a state appropriation for their budget, we also have tuition, which helps ameliorate the in a reduction.
Yes, that's correct. It also gives us, we also have to watch the enrollment side of the budget, the tuition. So that is actually another track that we are looking at. We are modeling different types of enrollment scenarios for the fall. And all of this will come together as we review our budget and make our decisions.
Great, thank you. Brian, I'm going to address this next question to you. This was something that I received in the prepared questions, but I'm also seeing it in the chat.